From the first two readings, the first and the second reading, we find the story of God's promise to give a son, Isaac, to Abraham in his old age, and that through him, Abraham's children will be so many that even if you could count the stars, you couldn't count the children of Abraham. This establishes that in God's mind, he creates a people for himself. And therefore, the idea of family from the very beginning of Adam and Eve in the garden, what God said to our first parents is, be fruitful and multiply. Create with me a life that will extend through the world. Therefore, when we talk about family, we can talk about it in terms of our immediate nuclear family, dad, mom, children. We can talk about the family of humanity around the globe, all of us going back to God. And then we can, of course, talk about our family of faith. We do know that at this time, the idea of family will seem to be debatable, depending on which side you stand. But from our Christian faith, there isn't much we can do about it. We only follow what God has told us. The family that he understands that he wants us to be a part of is a part where a man and a woman comes together and they grow in their own family. It is important for us to keep this in mind because in the text of St. Matthew, Jesus was asked about marriage and about questions of divorce and remarriage, and Jesus looks at them and says, do you not know that in the very beginning, the intention of God is that one man will go to one woman, they come together and form a family. The family is so essential to the continuation of the human race that we need, especially in the Western Hemisphere, to think again what family really means, whether from a religious perspective or from a sociological perspective. You have to be able to see the bigger picture. And surprisingly, about 2 weeks ago, I was watching CNN, and Paul Ryan was talking about this same thing, that America will have to look again about question of family. Because over the period of years, people have gone from having 6 children to 1 or 2. And the demographic will change. It will mean that in another 50 to 60 years, if you continue this way, the country may be deeply impacted in terms of human persons and economy. But put all of that aside. Why did we decide that, oh, well, the economy is bad? God provides for us. Do we not trust that? Has he not invited you to be a part of that? Is this not how we continue the human race? And so it's divided on one side. There are people in another part of the world, because their religion allows them 1, 2, 3 wives. So you have one man who's got 8 to 12 kids. On this side, you have one man, one wife. They have 2 kids on the maximum. So when you try to balance that, it weighs heavily. The scales are not proper. And what happens is the more they produce over there, the more there's migration. And before you know, your culture is gone, your identity is gone. Second thing to look at is, as human family, do we really recognize each other as members of God's family? Because right now, there's a lot of problems that we need to look at as human persons. If we do recognize that all of us belong to the same human family, we exist in the same planet, and that we have one God together. Issues like immigration, issues like refugees. You can imagine in this weather, there are people who are under the tent because they're running away from violence and oppression. And then finally, what does it mean for us to be a member of a parish, to be a member of the Catholic Church, to be a Christian? Because that, again, is another family, which by baptism concerns us into one family under God. Are we just satisfied to come to Mass, receive communion, sing a few hymns, and go home? Is that what families do? Are we interested in knowing each other so that if there's a need for it, we know who to go to so that we can support each other, we can uplift each other? If you have been coming to church, especially if you've been coming to this parish and you've not made friends with at least 2 families, you have to rethink what you understand, what a Christian body really means. And so I encourage you as we go home today, because this weather is not looking good, please be careful driving home. Remember, God calls us to be a part of a human family that is created in his own image and likeness, to be a part of a family that falls within the intentions of the Creator, and by so doing, continue with him his ongoing work of creation. Amen.